Hey everyone, how you doing? Very well, welcome back to the JLX podcast. Today we are going through some client questions, of which I do not know yet, because on my tablet just here, I am going to scroll through, basically on our team chat, we have some questions and things like that. I'm just going to scroll straight down through them. Once I've done that, I'm just going to pick some questions, because the thing is, sometimes, and if you listen to one of my podcasts a few weeks ago, I don't script these, right? So I literally just pick a topic and then I'll talk on it. But the thing with that is that sometimes when I know the questions I've got, I'll be thinking of the question that I'm not answering whilst I'm answering a different question, and then I lose my train of thought, which is why oftentimes when I do these podcasts, you'll hear me bounce between different topics quite quickly. 9 times out of 10, it's because I'm thinking about the question I'm not answering rather than answering the question I should be answering. So there's a little insight into how my brain works. Anyway, so as I said, what I would do is I would kind of scroll through my little Trello board here and we'll find a question. Hey, this is a good one. We've not actually had this one yet. Did we have this one? No, we didn't do this. We did macros, didn't we, last week? Okay, so this is the question. How do you prioritize your workouts when you don't have enough time? How do you prioritize your... Right, so I am going to assume, based on the person whose name is next to this and therefore who's asked that question, they mean in a week, not in a day, because this is a conversation we've had recently. So when you don't have enough time throughout the week, how do you prioritize your workouts? Now, I'm actually going to answer this twofold. I'll answer this from the perspective of somebody who's just thinking, oh shit, how am I going to get my workout in today? And I'm going to answer it from the perspective of somebody who's not sure how they get their workouts in from the week. So we'll start on the macro first and foremost. We'll go big. How do you plan your week? If you're worried about the timings, you're going away for the weekend, or work's very hectic, or children, or deadlines, whatever it is. Here's what I would do. When you set up your goals, you'll hear me talk about goal setting a lot because it is actually important, believe it or not, to do it properly. When you set up your goals, they are essentially your guiding star, the North Star, the thing you will be facing towards and working towards the whole process, the whole time you're doing this. They are also, however, a very good guiding star for the situations where you're up against the wall a little bit and you need to prioritize. Here's the example. When we onboard any of our clients, when we go through their plan feedback and things like that, we always ask them what their main muscle group focuses are and what the things they're not so bothered about. Why do we do that? Because we want to make sure that if we're working with people who are cut for time, the time they spend in the gym is directly working towards the goal they've set. For example, a lot of our clients want to build bigger glutes, bigger quads, bigger hamstrings. So do I go ahead and program calves for them when I could be using that time to program glutes, quads or hamstrings? No, I do not, because it's not towards the goal. And if we only have a set amount of time, we need to be very specific with the program that we're putting in place to enable that person to go and get to the goal they actually came to us for. It really baffles me when clients who come to us say a lot of the time, we'll be like, oh, what kind of program are you on? They'll be like, oh, this is it. They kind of send it across. And I think none of this relates to the goal that you actually have. It's just very generic. So if you're listening to this thinking, my program is very generic, stop doing it. Do a program that actually works towards your goals. Easy example, as I've just said, if you can only train 4 days a week, and let's say, for example, they've just evenly split up the volumes of all your exercises and sets between every single muscle group, it's a bit like going along and kind of just tapping each egg. None of the eggs are going to break. You need to actually just choose a couple of eggs and crack them. The actual example I give of this normally, and I don't know why I didn't give this just then, is when you think about time as a finite source, and that being a watering can with water in it, okay? The plants are the goals that you've set. You only have so much time to nurture and grow and take care of so many goals based on the time, water, that you have. So you have a choice. You can either try and nurture 5 or 6 different plants with the watering can that you've got, and in the end, they'll all just die because they don't have enough water, or you just pick 2 or 3 and you take the best care of them. Every time, I would take the 2 or 3, because at least at the end you have 2 or 3 thriving plants rather than 5 or 6 all dead. Same thing goes for your goals. A lot of the time, too many goals equal too little direction, too much confusion, not enough clarity, and therefore nothing gets done, or we try and do too much and we give up. So when it comes to your week then, as I've already said, what you will have is a goal at the very start of the process. And then that goal will point you in the direction of what you need to do. So Let's say, for example, take the client I have in mind right now who actually asked me this question. So Lindsay asked me the question, and it's based on, I'm trying to give it away, but it doesn't really matter. Based on holiday, right? So if we're going to go away, we've got kids to manage, we've got a job as well, that something has to give, okay? And that thing that has to give is her training, okay? So when that happens, she's saying to me, like, what do I do here? And this is what I always say to her. Let's look at your goals, okay? Your goals are fat loss, your goals are glute growth, your goals are also, she's working towards a pull-up at the moment. So when we look at that, what would you think we need to do in order to tick the boxes towards her goals? Okay? Is it going to be lots of back squats, lots of shoulder press, and lots of RDLs? In a sense, some of those will help, but no. What we need to be doing is saying, right, we'll take you 4 sessions. We can only do 3 this week. In that case, what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize all the movements that are working you towards your goal. So any movements that are like secondary. So for example, hip thrusts are staying, RDLs are staying, squats are staying. I know I just mentioned those 2, but hang on with me. Anything that we've programmed specifically for glute growth is going in there. All of the pull-up work, so she has 3 different versions of pull-ups in a week. All of them are going in, okay? Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to leave out something that's crucial to the development of that process which leads to the goal. This is what too many people do. Too many people go, right, well, I train Monday, I train Tuesday, and I train Thursday, which means Friday session has to go in the bin because I can't do it. No. Rearrange, plan ahead, rearrange. We ask all of our clients in their check-ins, what are you doing for the next 7 to 14 days that I need to know about? The reason we do that is so that we know about it, so that we can help them make the changes they need to make in order to make sure that that process, that goal they've set, is still being worked towards with everything that we're doing as much of the time as possible. Easier said than done, maybe, not when you've got good support. So, like I was saying, what we would do is we would remove the Friday session. We'd say, right, what's in that Friday session that we need? Let's highlight those. Let's bold them in the program. What's in any of these sessions we don't need? Right, calves aren't a really prominent goal for us at the moment. Let's whip those 2 sets out. They can go in the bin for the week. What else are we not super keen on here? Right, we're not massive on arms. We're just putting them in because we wanted to kind of tone them up a little bit. Right, get rid of that bit of bicep work. Get rid of that bit of tricep work. That can go for the week. Put the glute and the pull-up work, if it was in the same session, which it rarely would be, but let's just go with it. Take that, lift it out of the Friday session, slot it into those other 3, wallop. Now we have 3 sessions that are directly impacting, making a big dent, moving the needle, whatever you want to call it, towards the goals you've set. Not enough people do this. It's a very straightforward thing to do, and we do it with all of our clients to make sure that every week, as much as we can, we're directing time, effort, and energy towards the goal they've set. Okay? I was just about to get another question, but I said I would answer that in 2-fold. If you are talking about one singular session of, like, let's say for me, for example, right now, I worked super late last night. I then got up a bit later this morning just to counter the tiredness I had. So I didn't train in the morning. I'm going to train this evening. Maybe not my best idea in the world, if I'm honest with you, but it's still half term over here, so I might get away with it being a bit quieter. The aim, therefore, for me is to be like, right, what are the movements I need to get done today to move towards the goal I want? Right, well, I know for me, for example, I am really keen on developing my shoulders. I'm really keen on doing some calf work, and I'm also getting back into some gymnastic stuff, so like handstand press, handstand walks, things like that. So when I look at my session, I think, right, is it a necessity that I do loads of tricep work? No. Is it a necessity that I do loads of core work? No, because that'll kind of get done within the gymnastics work that I'm going to be doing anyway. So, okay, cool, right. I already can see my program now, right? Those things are going. These things are priorities. So what I do, I actually go into my program and I'll bold them. So I will actually just highlight them. Bang, bang, bang as a priority. Now, if I get to the gym tonight and it's fine and dandy, I'll get through everything, no problem. But there's a high chance that with the busyness of the gym in the evenings, my general tolerance for that and my level of patience, especially at the moment when I'm feeling a little bit more stressed and just generally a lot more neurological, shall we say, neurotic, then it's a bit difficult for me with that in the gym. It's quite overwhelming. So I tend to just pick the key things that need to get done. I'll get in and get out. That's like a big win for me. So essentially, it's the same thing. Choose the exercises that work best and get those done because they will keep you moving towards your goal. all right? Let's say, for example, you just keep doing everything. The thing you really want to work is your glutes, and you miss out the last 2 exercises, which are glute pump based exercises. It's not going to be very good for the goal that you've set because you're missing the 2 things that you need to do. So that is something to bear in mind. Right, let's see, next question. Scrolly through here. Where are we? Oh, okay, this is quite a good one. Okay, so will we go with this? Yeah, we will go with this. It does. I was going to say, we'll choose one that relates, but it doesn't need to relate. So this would be great. So this question is, Xander, as you know, again, like these are client questions that I've asked that they put into the chat for us to help you guys. So Xander, as you know, my calories between Monday to Friday are absolutely spot on. I manage them well, I plan well ahead, and I'm well organised. However, this goes out the window every weekend. This goes out the window every weekend without doubt, and it's really getting me down. Please, can you help? So this is a conversation that we actually had with one of our clients. We'll call her H for the arguments of this, just purely because I didn't ask her if I could share her name. So let's take H, and let's say with her really spot on through the Monday to Friday, absolutely nailing it. Weekends are a bit more of a struggle. Far more sociable, far more active, far more out of the house, far more travelled, goes around, visits places, visits family, is far more active at weekends and things like that. So generally hunger levels will be slightly higher than they will be during the week. Opportunity to eat higher caloric foods, typically those that are hyper palatable, so your sugar and fat foods put together, so things like cakes, things like that. Typically as well, one thing to consider is that when you're eating in a sociable environment, there's an expectation put on you by other people to enjoy that food. That is a topic we'll come on to in a later podcast, eating for other people's enjoyment, because that's a big topic in and of itself. We won't cover now, but essentially there are ways you can manage this. Now, the thing we have to look at is what causes the most stress. Does it cause us the most stress to fight against all those people and just not go and see them? Because in the end, you build resentment for them, and you think, right, your partner says to you, we need to go and visit such and such. You say, fucking hell. I'm like, no, I don't have this today. Like, I need to stick to my calories. I'm really trying hard to do that. And they're just always overfeeding, and, they make me feel guilty when I don't, and so on and so forth. So how do you do that? Well, this is where time-restricted feeding can be very, very helpful, also known as fasting. I don't like using the term fasting because I feel like it gets a bad rap, just because people... I'm not going to get down that wormhole either. See, I'm concentrating today. It's because I had a whole bag of Haribo before I came into this, so my brain's happy. Don't recommend that, by the way. Just hyper like a child. So anyway, fucking hell, I've forgotten what I was talking about now. Oh no, I'm back. I'm back in the room, ladies and gentlemen. I am back. You can tell I'm hyper because this is what happens. So I was saying, basically what I would do is I would introduce some time restricted feeding. Why? There's 2 ways to do this, and this is where the why is important. So if you're someone who struggles a lot with overconsumption of food episodes, I'm not going to call it binging, because binging is not usually what it is. It's usually just where people have an uncontrolled element of food eating. Very different to what binging is, by the way, at least in my opinion. So what will happen is they get overly hungry, and then once they start eating, they cannot stop. So if that is you, this may not work, okay? And that's where there's a different approach. But if you're someone who typically hasn't had that relationship with food in the past, you are very much more someone who, for want of a better word, doesn't need or doesn't think about food that much, and generally doesn't have very high food focus, which can change during a dieting phase. So it's worth noting that, just in case you're like, hey, I never struggle with this, and all of a sudden it hits you. If you're that kind of person, then this will be great for you, because what you do is you would get up in the morning and then essentially just try and make yourself busy, right? The worst thing you can do is just sit in bed like, normally I'd be having my food right now, and I'm not. Cool. It's not very helpful. What I would do is I'd get up and get going, get doing something. So by all means have a lie and like chill out. You don't need to be some kind of mercenary and charade around the house doing like 30 different hoovering styles and whatnot. What you do need to do, however, is appreciate that when we're more distracted, it's far easier to be less food focused, and it's far easier for that time to pass without us thinking about food. So by all means, like, I like to have a black coffee. So if for example, I know I'm having a takeaway on a Saturday night and I'm dieting, then I will do this. I'll have a black coffee in the morning. Basically that will tide me through to a lunch, and then I'll have a really nice big lunch basically. So I always know I'm going to have a nice big lunch. The benefit to having that nice big lunch is that typically what I've done is I've taken some calories that I would have eaten in the morning and I've just joined it to lunch. Okay. Now you might be thinking, well, how has that saved you any calories if you're going to have takeaway? Typically I won't have my afternoon snack. Right, so my lunch would become, let's say, 800 calories where normally it's 4. And then let's say I'm on 1800 calories as my dieting calories, which is quite normal for me. Then I'd have about 1000 calories then for dinner, which for a Chinese is probably not enough. But remember, the deficit line isn't I'm either in a deficit or I'm not. It's about 500 calories depending on how much of a deficit you're in. So it's not a big concern. I've probably got 1500 calories if I want to go back to maintenance, and that's definitely not going to be 1500 calories of Chinese, unless, well, I mean, it's easy to eat that much, but not something that I do. Typically, because I have the worst Chinese order ever, right? You'll hate me for this. I have chicken fried rice, sweet and sour chicken balls without the sweet and sour. The mother-in-law has that. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it with my chicken balls. I just like my chicken balls. And then prawn crackers. Now, this is the best bit. You get your prawn cracker and you use it as a shovel to scoop up the rice. So you've got a shovel of prawn cracker and bread fried rice, and chicken fried rice actually I have. And then you can have a chicken ball on the other hand. It's fucking wonderful, wonderful. Anyway, I digress. My point here is this. By doing that, what you are essentially doing is you're filling yourself up a lot with a bigger lunch, which you don't normally have. And because of that, you don't necessarily need then to have that afternoon snack. Because let's say you have lunch around 1 o'clock, right? You don't necessarily need to have that afternoon snack. And then you've saved those calories then for dinner. So it's very manageable, especially if you're going out, like I said, or something like that. Now, you can do it a different way, and it depends really on the person that you are. Some people go super high protein for lunch, super low calorie. So you could have, say, a chicken salad or something like that. Personally, I don't find that to be very helpful myself. Because for me, I find that once I've eaten, then the drive for more food is there. So what I quite like to do is I quite like to have a bigger meal, because then I both have that bigger drive for food, but that bigger drive for food is also taken out. Equally, the satiation off the back of that is so much higher. So I feel much full for much longer. And I don't then have that like need for a snack in the afternoon. So I end up saving myself 300-400 calories anyways. I tend to have a very small dinner typically. And so naturally, that's where that extra kind of 400 to 600 or 700 calories comes from. And that's what gives me that kind of 1000 calories for dinner in the end. Now, if you're someone who struggles with the idea of not having breakfast, there's a couple of things that you can do. If you know that you are, again, bringing it back to H's question, very well organized during the week, we just need to carry out exactly the same thing we did before. So what do you have for breakfast Monday to Friday? Have that for Saturday. What do you have for lunch Monday to Friday? Have that on Saturday. Then for the afternoon, let's say you're out and about, what we need to do is make decisions. A lot of people don't make decisions. They allow other people to make their decisions for them, and then they blame themselves. So for example, someone will say, oh, would you like a cake? And you're like, oh, no, thank you. They're like, oh, go on. You're like, yeah, okay, go on then. So you've let them make that decision for you rather than take responsibility, rather than say, no, honestly, I'm absolutely fine, but thank you so much. Really important when you're saying no to somebody, say I am fine. The worst thing you can do is make an excuse. For example, you might say, I shouldn't have that. What you're saying to them is, if you convince me enough, I probably will have it. If you say, thank you so much, I'm very grateful for the offer, but honestly, I'm absolutely fine. I feel very full, I'm very happy, I'm just gonna enjoy my cup of tea, but I really appreciate the offer. They cannot come back to you on that. There's no door opening there. There's no gap for them to be like, ooh, just make them feel like they really need to have this. Because they want you, I'm not gonna get into that, but they want to see you enjoy it fundamentally. The key in the conversation part of that is just to make sure that you're living by the goals you've set and you're not being dissuaded by other people, because when you go home that night, it's not them that sits there going, why the fuck did I do that? Okay, and that's sometimes where guilt is telling us a lesson. I don't think that it's good to carry guilt around, by the way, but I am saying that sometimes when people feel guilt for the decisions they've made, it's because they made a decision against the goal they set. So rather than it being this self-punishing thing, it's a self-awareness thing. That's very, very different, only people don't have usually enough self-awareness to understand the difference. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, I mean it in a, once you learn, you know, like sometimes I'll make comments to myself, and my wife will be like, that's really not a nice thing to say. And I'm like, it's self-awareness because I know what I've done. I'm not shaming myself here. I'm just saying, you know, that's how I ate. I shouldn't have done that. It's self-awareness to know that I had control, but I didn't use it. That's on me. And so when you're struggling, when you're someone who struggles with the weekend, there are strategies that you can put in place, just like the one I've just described to you, that enable you to do that. But it fundamentally comes down to discipline and control and choice. Control is not about having to keep Tupperware with you everywhere and weigh out your little 3 pieces of popcorn and take it into the cinema and do all this. Control is knowing that everything you do is a choice. So someone might give you a fucking ginormous plate of food. It's your choice to eat it, right? You could literally leave half of it and say, I am actually just so full, thank you so much. Now, they might be very unhappy about that and they might think it's rude, but they are not you, and you are an adult, typically, if you're listening to this. And what's really important is you remember that it's not them that sees the end result of the actions that come out. I will, however, bring up just one more thing, and that's something I've already mentioned. What causes you the most stress? Is it more stressful when people are like that and it actually makes you overwhelmed and then you just want to eat everything? And if that's the case, sometimes it is better to go in with the idea that you'll be going back to maintenance for that day. And if that's the case, all you need to do is readjust the timelines a little bit, If you're someone who says, yeah, the weekends are just really overwhelming, I can get control, but the more I think about it, the more obsessed I become, then the more I eat because I get more stressed. Sometimes it is actually just a much, much better idea to say, okay, I'm happy going back to maintenance for the weekend. It's just 2 days, and the other 5, I'm absolutely smoking it. I'll adjust my timelines, I'll adjust the pressure level I put myself under, and I'll manage it. And I'll obviously take into consideration the levels of progress I'm making week to week, as not a 7-day week, as a 5-day week. Okay, so if you were to take it from an easy perspective, 5 weeks is 35 days, right? So in 35 days, the results you have would be from 7 days as they would be had you have done, from 5 weeks as you would do from 7. Okay, so what I mean by that is if you times 7 by 5, you get to 35. So 7 5-day weeks equals 35, or 5 7-day weeks equals 35. So you're best adding 2 weeks on, that's it. Which when you consider, in reality, how many days of stress you might feel, how many battles you have through the weekend and all of that stuff, if you think about that, and if this is you, it may well be worth the extra 2 weeks. Because in reality, it's only 10 days more of dieting for a more relaxed, stress-free, and usually much better result-based process if you are that individual. If you're like me and you just like to put your foot down, very, very different. You put your foot down, get 5 weeks done, make some difficult choices along the way, go back to maintenance, lovely jubbly mini cup done. So it really does depend. But I hope this has helped. So as a quick roundup of what I said about nutrition, there are so many ways to manage weekend nutrition, and there are so many things that you can do. But the first thing you need to decide in each scenario that you're going into is, what's going to cause me the most stress here, and how am I going to manage that? Is it going to be a positive outcome, a negative outcome? And off the back of that, knowing myself, knowing my self-awareness and things like that, what's the best decision to me to make here? Because too many of you will be making decisions based on diets and what you see on social media and being hardcore, rather than actually who you are as an individual and the things that work best for you. As always, folks, if you found this helpful, or if you have any friends, family or colleagues who would find this helpful, please do send it on to them, because the more people we can help with great information, the better. It's the whole reason why we do these things, and it would be my absolute pleasure to be able to connect with more people. So I want to say thank you in advance for that. If you could share this to your stories, if you're listening to this on Spotify, I would be so grateful. Any comments, any feedback, send it my way. If you've got any questions, of course, do the same, because as much as I like to help new people, I like to help you guys, the real OGs of this podcast. And if there's anything I can do that would help you get to your goal a little bit quicker or a little bit more efficiently, you know exactly where I am, and I'm happy to help. I'll speak to you guys soon. Take good care. Bye for now.